We're coming off a bye week, a productive bye week for us. The coaches did self-evaluations on each individual group and collectively as an offense and defense to see where we can get better as individuals, individual groups, as coaches. The goal was to come up with solutions rather than whine about, why things have happened or what happened or, what's the reason due to injury, whatever. That wasn't what we were looking for. We were looking for being honest, looking in the mirror at ourselves, being humble, and coming up with answers. I think we had a productive week of practice. The coaches really focused in on individual technique. Most of the practice was structured around basic fundamentals of football and individual technique at individual stations. And then it culminated with a scout scrimmage, which was live, that we conducted on Wednesday, that was coached by the GAs. There was a lot of energy, a lot of fun in that practice. It ended up in a brawl at the end, which it usually does. I think they realized after the third year that it gets cut short if they get in a brawl. So they got in a brawl and I cut it short. So they've got that down pat. The guys that stood out in the scrimmage were Hunter McEachern. Did a nice job, scored a touchdown throwing it, had some nice throws. TK Powell had some nice runs in that scrimmage. Really a talented young back, a guy that, that is going to get some opportunities possibly this year. Defensively, Jason Van Hook had 5 tackles and a sack, and Jackson was all over the field, had 5 tackles. So those guys were awarded Scout Team Player of the Week for that. And we really utilized the week to get a handful of guys healthy and fresh, and not only physically but mentally. Coming out of that bye week, I think guys like Mac Leftwich, Kelvin Fisher, Alvin Jones, Autry Golden, and Trayvon Hughes, guys that have either been out or limited, extremely limited the past few weeks due to injuries. I think we'll have all those guys back healthy, which is very important to our team. We did receive great news last week from the academic side of our program, from the MAC. Each year they come out with the yearly APR reports, and we were given a perfect rating, 1,000 rating, which basically means academic progress report means progress towards degree with your student athletes, which means that every single player in our program right now is on target to get their degree. And I know when you get caught up in, you're at a midpoint of a struggling season, you're 2-4, that may not mean a lot to a lot of people. Well, it means a hell of a lot to me, because my main goal as a head coach here is to make sure every single one of these student athletes gets their degree. And at this point, we had a perfect score. You can't get any better. And when we took over this thing, I can tell you this, it was not in perfect shape. And these kids have done a great job working in the classroom. The MAC does a great job with Heather and Denise over there, keeping things organized, keeping these guys on point. And, I told the team, they needed to hear some positive news. That I was more proud about that than anything. And I was excited for those guys. The coaches went to their respective recruiting areas to see recruits or either see games in their areas. And it started in El Paso. We blanketed the city on Monday and Tuesday. We saw every single school in El Paso, and the main focus of that was to go see the recruits that are currently committed to us for 2016. And at this point right now, I can't name names, but we have 6 El Paso student athletes that are committed to us for next year. We're hoping by the end of the season that we'll potentially have 7, which I know would certainly be a record. And they're all outstanding football players. They're all outstanding young men, and can't wait to get to that point. It starts right here for us in El Paso. That's known, it's stated, and again, I thought the coaches did a nice job of blanketing the city, not only looking for players that are recruitable scholarship players, but also guys looking forward in the future as walk-on type players that can help our program and help our program win. We came back as a staff off the weekend and really took a hard look at what we can do to change practice, to benefit our team, to change what we need to work on, to emphasize things that we've been lacking at. We wanted to take a proactive approach to attacking the things that we've been poor at. We just didn't, at the bye week, sweep things under the rug and say it's going to be okay. It's a new start to the second season. There's a lot of things that we need to change to get better. And really, we got to improve on three things in my mind. Number one is red zone on both sides of the ball. We've been extremely poor in the red zone on defense. Offensively, we have been not productive in that area of the field. We can't come away with field goals offensively, and we got to hold teams to field goals or get them out of the red zone defensively. Third downs, we got to be more productive in that area, getting off the field on third downs on defense and maintaining drives and putting together sustained drives on offense and not get knocked out of that situation. And explosive plays, chunk plays as you call them. What we determine an explosive play is a plus 10-yard run or a plus 20-yard pass. We've been extremely lacking that on the offensive side of the ball, and we've given up way too many explosive plays on the defensive side of the ball, as well as overemphasizing the basic fundamentals that we need to be better at, tackling and ball security, because right now we're currently at -8 in the ball security area, and we need to get better. My main focus as a head coach is to focus on the seniors. We have 16 outstanding young men that I want to see finish this year on a positive note, to have fun, to go out there and be energized and really enjoy the last half of their season. I want to make it a positive experience for this entire team because, as I've mentioned many times before, when you're 2-4, in a lot of cases going to work for the players and the coaches, it's miserable. That hasn't been the case with this group. I'm amazed at all the things that have happened to them this year. They come back to work every single day. They have a positive outlook. They work in the weight room. They work in the classroom. I've really had to deal with no problems off the field. And I really like the group. So my focus is to repay these guys by letting them have a positive experience these last weeks and see if we can get this thing turned around. And that's the goal. I just want the fans to know we have not given up on the year. I hope they haven't either. Some people may have. I'm not concerned with those people. I'm concerned with our team, and we're really going to do our best and roll up our sleeves to try to get this thing turned around this year. I don't have the mentality of, hey, we'll just put it off till next year and we get a bunch of players back and everything's going to be honky-dory. We've got 6 games left, and our focus is to improve on those 6 games this year. And then basically we began preparations and got a little head start on our next opponent, Florida Atlantic. And talking about Florida Atlantic, it's a team that I feel right now should be easily 3-3. They lost an overtime game in the first game to Tulsa. They played Miami extremely tough. It was 20-20, midway point going into the fourth quarter. And then they lost a last-minute game versus Rice. That was a tough loss for them at home. So they're sitting at 1-5, but certainly, again, could be a 3-3 team. From the turnover standpoint, they're in the negative category, -2. But one thing that stands out to me is they've gained 10 interceptions on defense. They have been getting the ball on defense in the form of getting it through the air. Time of possession, they're 11th in Conference USA. Penalties, they're 9th in Conference USA, averaging about 7 a game. And then the other thing that stands out, they've been pretty consistent scoring through the quarters. It's not a team that, starts slow or finishes slow. 36 points first quarter, 41 points second quarter, 37 points third quarter. They've been pretty consistent in that area. Offensively, they've played 2 quarterbacks. I don't know their quarterback situation as far as health. I know that Johnson has been their quarterback of the past and really done a great job for them in their program. He's kind of like a bigger Jamil Showers. He's 6'1", 240, looks like a fullback. But he did not start the past game against Marshall. Driscoll, a redshirt freshman, started the game. Very talented young man. He's the brother of Driscoll, the quarterback from Louisiana Tech that transferred from Florida. Very talented family. And they've been throwing the ball more with him. They're averaging 185 yards a game passing with him as opposed to 133 with the other quarterback. He's at a 49% passing rate, four interceptions, 3 touchdowns. He's got a long of 71. So whether it's due to injury or whether it's due to them making a quarterback change, I don't know. But Driscoll was the quarterback that we saw last week. They have 2 excellent running backs. Number 9, Howell, 6'1", 205. He's got a 4.8 average. Scored 2 touchdowns along with 30. He's rushed for close to 500 yards. And their backup tailback has a 5.1 yard average and 2 touchdowns. He's also 6', 205. They have an extremely tall, athletic group of skill players. And when I say tall, I mean tall. Their tight end 6'6", and then they've got 3 receivers, 6'1", 6'3", and 6'2". Very tall, athletic, fast group. And they've all been productive. The tight end's got 2 touchdowns, Terry. Wide receiver Stolchak, he's their leading receiver. He's got a 13.7 yard average per catch, which is outstanding, and he's got 355 yards. The other wide receiver, Woods, has got 10.7 per catch. He's got 2 touchdowns. And then Solomon, kind of more of the explosive player, 6'2", 205, he's got a 21.3 per catch average. And he's got 2 touchdowns as well. So they have 3 very explosive receivers, a tall, athletic tight end. Things that have been standing out for them, they have been trying to maintain the rushing game, 156 yards a game, 235 passing. They're 6th in Conference USA in overall total yards, 391 yards a game. Red zone, they're 6th in Conference USA. And then they've given up 16 sacks, and as I mentioned, they're -2 in the turnover category. Now, defensively, it's a very fast, athletic defense. The players that really stand out on film, they have a cornerback named LeBlanc. He's got 25 tackles. He leads them in interceptions with 3. He has 6 pass breakups. He leads their team in pass breakups. Very talented corner. I feel they have one of the better defensive tackles in Conference USA in number 11, Coley. He's 6'2", 300. He's 2nd on the team in tackles. He's got 6.5 tackles for losses, 4.5 sacks, 3 quarterback hits, and 2 forced fumbles. That's an interior lineman. Usually those are stats that are reserved for an outstanding end. This guy's a defensive tackle racking up those kind of numbers. They do have an outstanding defensive end in number 9, Hendrickson, 17 tackles. He leads their team in sacks with 5. He's also got 5 tackles for losses. So 2 very good interior players and a solid corner. I've been very impressed with their freshman linebacker. Can't pronounce his name. Aziz Al-Shair. That's as close as I can get. But he's a 6'2", 215-pound true freshman that is extremely athletic. He leads their team in tackles with 48, which is impressive for a true freshman. And he's also got some splash plays as far as tackles for losses and quarterback hits. Their safety is also a solid player. He's got second on the team in tackles, also has an interception and 3 pass breakups. Where they've been very good is 3rd downs. They're 6th in Conference USA at a 39% success rate against them. And they've been great in the red zone. They're number 1 in Conference USA, allowing only 50% touchdowns. So the teams have had 24 trips to the red zone against their defense, and they've only come away with 12 touchdowns. That's outstanding. That's a goal that every team aspires to have. They're 2nd in Conference USA with sacks. They got 15 sacks on the year, and they're 2nd in Conference USA in forcing interceptions. As I mentioned, they have 10 on the year. So they have a very good defense, and we're going to have to be at our best. And the thing that stands out is their athleticism. Special teams, very athletic. This will be the best coverage units that we've faced all year. Their kickoff coverage unit ranks number 1 in Conference USA, and their punt coverage unit ranks number 2 in Conference USA. They have 2 capable returners. Number 1, Henry, their kickoff returner, he's got a 24.5 average. They're 6th in kickoff return in Conference USA. And then punt return is the cornerback LeBlanc, and he kind of reminds me of the guy from FIU. You know, he's only had a 6-yard average this year, but he's had capable returns in the past, and he's a very explosive returner. They're solid. They've made all of their PATs with their kicker, and they're 9 of 13 field goals. So very solid special teams unit, very athletic defense, and an offense that poses problems with their length at their skill positions, including the running backs and their athleticism, and we'll have to monitor throughout the week where their quarterback play goes, but they're capable with both those guys in there. So, again, they're coming in here as a 1-5 team. but I don't view them as a 1-5 team whatsoever. As I mentioned, they should be very easily 3-3 or better, and we're starting the second half of the season looking to get refocused, re-energized, and that's where we are as a program right now. Any questions? Well, number one is, looking hard at how you practice. What can we do to help ourselves? Trying to add more competitive type periods, doing things that we've been struggling with. So there'll be more third down periods against each other. There'll be more red zone periods that we normally have. There'll be more competitive type periods to get energy going because, when you're trying to create energy, the best way to do it is compete. And the kids always want to compete. They don't ever want to get beat one-on-one situations. So I'll try to put those guys, kind of like some of the things that we would do in training camp, to get those guys energized and do that. And from a health standpoint, probably back away from the pads a little bit more. We'll probably be in shells, which means upper shells, helmet, take the pads off the body, because at this point of the season, all of our tackling work will be done in fundamental work. It doesn't make sense to go out there and have live tackling, especially with the health of our team. So that's another way to change that. But the main thing is just real enthusiasm, real positive energy, and that starts with the coaches. It starts with the head coach. It starts with me in the meeting rooms, on the practice field, and making sure these kids are enjoying themselves and having fun. Because it is hard to come to work. If the routine is the same all the time, you haven't had success. The fans are down on you. You're walking to school. You got your head down. It's hard. I've been there, and so you need a little change, and we're trying to spark that.
I assume Leftwich is number 1. McEachern's probably number 5. What's 2, 3, 4?
Well, 2, 3, 4. Garrett will be the number 2 quarterback, and then again, Kavika and Metz, will be utilized as far as their package. And, we went through a stretch with 2 freshman quarterbacks, not just one, that have never seen the field. We saw some of the positive results of that. I think both those guys are really talented. I love both those young men. I think they're really going to be outstanding quarterbacks for UTEP in the future. And we saw some of the negative results. Some turnovers, some costly turnovers. We had 4 pick sixes. We had some intentional groundings, just knowing situations, when to get rid of the ball, when not to get rid of the ball, taking sacks when you really didn't have to. And those are all teaching moments for those guys, but they're not going to be set off to the side. I think they're too talented not to utilize them in some way, so they will still have a package for us. And, again, I think both Ryan Metz and Kavika Johnson in the future and in this year are going to be great quarterbacks for UTEP.
What do you want to see from Garrett between now and the end of the season in order for him to get a shot?
That's between me and Garrett, and he knows what he's got to do. Okay, I'd rather not expound upon that because, he's got some things to do to get on the field, and those things haven't been done.
Obviously, you're looking for that first conference win of the season. Do you hear the players see this as a must-win, or is it just like any other game? How are you guys approaching it?
To me, every game is a must-win as you go into it. I've never gone into a game thinking we're going to lose it. I've never gone into a game saying this is it. If we're going to just fold in the tents if we don't win this game. So we approach every single game the same. From a preparation standpoint, when you're 2-4 and your goal is to get to a bowl game, you are put in a must-win situation. So from that standpoint, certainly. But our main focus is on Florida Atlantic and that only.
What you have committed in recruiting, obviously you can't talk about specific guys, but is there a specific area that you're looking to shore up?
Yeah, you also look at graduation, how many guys you're losing. Defensive backs is going to be an area we'll probably sign 5 players this year. Running backs, because of the quick loss of depth, and also, Jeremiah LaFossa graduated, so we'll probably sign 2 in that area. Defensive linemen, we'll probably sign 3. Linebackers, we're going to sign 2, again, due to graduation. But if you look at it, we have 16 available, and it's probably 10 are probably going to go to the defensive side of the ball this year. The remaining 6 go to the offensive side of the ball. But we do want to sign some running backs for sure, and defensive backs. Those to me would be the two priority positions in signings this year.
I feel like over the next 3 or 4 years with the recruiting that you have and the guys you have pretty much on the side, you can maybe not withstand 10 injuries, but be able to kind of replace, certain guys that you have in the defensive back and the running backs.
Yeah. I did like our depth going into the season, but I even overestimated it. You know what I mean? Because I did think we could withstand a few injuries at some spots, but the injuries this year is just really one of those years where you just kind of shake your head, because they weren't just injuries where you lose a guy for a couple weeks and you get him back. They were the season-ending type. So it puts a lot of strain on everybody because you have less guys to practice with. Guys are normally taking more reps than they normally would because they're not only now playing offense, they're also playing special teams. That's why I looked, at one point during the FIU game, and I'm looking at Jimmy Musgrave. This guy's playing every snap on defense. He's playing every snap on special teams. And I'm looking at him, and he looked just gassed, fatigued. And what we got to do a better job as a coaching staff is making sure that we take some reps off a guy like that we get somebody else plugged into special teams where we're just not at the end of the year looking at even more injured guys. So it does have to be monitored. My view on it. Injuries can happen. We don't play the blame game when it comes to injuries. If anything, we'll look at the future, how to restructure practice. But as I look at all those injuries, they all happen in games. They didn't happen in the weight room. They didn't happen in practice. They happened in games, and it was just, it is what it is. Probably the last time you'll hear me bring up injuries this year, because as I move forward with the team, I'm not even going to talk about the first 6 weeks or how it happened, what happened. All we're going to focus in on is the last 6 weeks of the season with the team we have, because that's who we got to go out there and fight with. But hopefully that answers your question. Yeah, just a couple, because again, most of the injuries were season-ending injuries, and but getting Mac Leftwich back, that's the guy that we're going in the season with a starting quarterback, certainly beneficial. Getting Kelvin Fisher back is huge, because you did see for a period of time the communication on the back end was struggling because we had young guys in there. When Kelvin was inserted, you really kind of calmed everything down, and then he got injured, and you saw a few things. Basically, you had to put young guys back in there, but those two guys are really going to be key coming back. But Autry Golden, same thing I tell the pro scouts. What you're seeing on film is not Autry Golden, because he's been beat up. He's been dealing through a knee injury. He's been dealing through a toe injury. He's really been beat up. So a guy like that needed this bye week to just get healthier. A guy like Alvin Jones, who I admire, gutted it out in the last game. He shouldn't have been out there, really. But he wanted to be out there for his teammates. But he wasn't Alvin Jones. And just getting this bye week to get him back, a healthy Alvin Jones helps us. And an unhealthy Alvin Jones doesn't help anybody. So those are, critical guys that I think, and other guys that were beat up as well, just getting fresh, mentally fresh and getting your body back, it's huge. So even though we don't get a bulk of those guys back, and really most of those guys won't be back for spring football either. I was even considering pushing spring football up to later to get some guys back, but looking at the type of injuries they have, they won't be back anyways. So our main focus on all those guys like the Aaron Joneses and the Luke Elsners and the Terry Janelle, the Cockrells, is to get those guys ready for 2016. But we did get some guys healthier this past week that have been playing for us. Yeah, I think we got to have our base system in place, because you really don't know, or if you don't know if they're going to utilize two, because the bigger quarterback's apt to, pull it down, run it, and he's got really unique run skills. Really reminds me of Jamil a lot, a bigger Jamil. He's a huge quarterback. And Driscoll's more of your, drop back. He's a very talented, strong-armed quarterback. I can see why they like him. And if they're moving in that direction, they certainly can win games with him. So, we probably do have to go into the week preparing for two, but that's been the case many times. Nowadays, with the different spread offenses, usually you do see two or have to prepare for something like that. We have not given up on our season. These kids are fighting in practice. They're going to do their best every day to try to turn the season around. We need you. We need your support. We love your support. It's supposed to be a beautiful day. I don't think we expect a monsoon like our last game, and beautiful weather, so it's an earlier kickoff, and we need everybody in their seats at 5 o'clock to get your energy to help our players win this game against FAU. All right, thank you.